Six Flags Great Adventure has made the announcement we feared but suspected was coming. They have announced that Kingda Ka, the world's tallest roller coaster, has closed for good.
And along with that, we're also losing Green Lantern, a B&M stand-up coaster, Twister, a top spin, the Parachute Ride, which has been SB&O for quite a while now, and Zumanjaro, the world's tallest drop tower.
And the Skyride. So that's a lot of rides closing at Six Flags Great Adventure this year. So the only thing that is softening the blow for the loss of Kingda Ka is that they also, in this press release, said that they will be replacing it with a record-breaking multi-launch coaster set to debut in 2026. So in this video, we're going to talk about everything regarding Kingda Ka's closure, as well as what we can expect maybe with these future editions.
So I want to start off with talking about what Kingda Ka means to a lot of people. As enthusiasts, for me, at least someone that grew up going to Great Adventure, I have a lot of sentimental attachment to it. That was the ride that made me feel completely fearless.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about hype here, find your fearless. Like for me, when I was a kid, that's what that ride was for me. And then also as people who love the industry, it is a really, really huge blow to lose such an engineering marvel.
Absolutely.
This was one of those things that when it was announced was like this, oh my God, is this possible? Like probably how we feel listening to the Falcon's Flight stuff.
Yeah.
Intamin basically did the impossible by making this happen, and to see it go, especially in such an unceremonious way, is really, really heartbreaking.
2025 actually would have been Kingda Ka's 20th anniversary, so it's really, really sad that it didn't make it to that milestone. There's actually a great documentary that you can go watch on YouTube showing the construction of Kingda Ka. I know, and to celebrate its life, we watched it, and it was really cool to see the ride come together.
Yeah, and if you watch it in reverse, you can see it coming down.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I had to lighten the mood a little bit. I'm really sad. That's how I cope.
Our friend Bryant at Coaster365 made a very interesting point. He said this is the first time in modern day history where we're seeing a decline in like the max height for the world's tallest roller coaster, because Falcon's Flight hasn't opened yet. And so, you know, Kingda Ka coming down means it drops down to, well, we don't know what, because Top Thrill 2 hasn't opened yet officially since its closure. So like, technically the world's tallest operating full circuit roller coaster is Red Force in Spain. So congratulations, Portaventura.
Yay, Spain. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
But not for us, because
No.
this is really, really sad. No, if you watch our vlog of our last day, it was definitely very emotional. You know, there's definitely going to be people out there that are like, it was a one-trick pony. Yes, it was, but it was a trick that was executed immensely well. Maybe people don't realize that the way that Cedar Point fans viewed Dragster as such an icon and like had such a cult following, like people who go to Great Adventure feel that way about Ka. Like, yes, for enthusiasts, El Toro is typically someone's favorite ride in the park. It was always mine.
Yeah.
But to like the average park goer, Kingda Ka is that thing.
It was the draw to get people to go Great Adventure. Hey, do you want to go ride the world's tallest roller coaster with me next week? Absolutely. Like, it's in a very accessible location for so many people, being right in between Philadelphia and New York City. And also, just to clarify, we have seen some discourse, some people arguing like, well, is this potentially not like goodbye forever? Because in their press release, it was a little vague where they said the ride is being retired, but we have since received official confirmation from the park. They've clarified that it is coming down. This is not a reimagining like Top Thrill 2.
Yeah.
So this is the end for Kingda Ka, as well as Zumanjaro. That whole structure will be removed supposedly before the start of the 2025 season, which does need to happen if they want to build this record-breaking multi-launch coaster in a
That's
spot.
going to take some time.
This is not going to be an easy ride to take down. You know, some people saw that demolition permits were released for like Green Lantern, as well as like the Parachutes and Twister, and they're like, well, why haven't we seen it for Kingda Ka? My own personal speculation is because this is such a massive ride. We've never seen a roller coaster of this caliber get taken down before. I imagine there has to be a ton of planning going into removing the structure safely. Think about how much is also around that ride. You have El Toro that you don't want to damage. Hello. There's the Safari right nearby. Like, there's a lot of things that you have to consider.
In another universe, perhaps we would have seen a reimagining of Kingda Ka.
If Top Thrill 2 had gone according to plan, maybe.
Potentially. You know, we can't really say one way or another, but the reality is, you know, from a business perspective, I do understand the decision. It is a very costly ride to operate. It is a very costly ride to maintain. they have to have people that work around the clock. Like, they have an overnight crew. Like, it's not something that once it's done for the day, it's done for the day. It's never done. The liability now, given what happened with Top Thrill Dragster, is probably quite a bit more expensive than, or maybe not even possible.
They might not insure it. Yeah.
Perspective, yeah. So there's a lot of things that go into this, but I would have loved to see a bit more recognition for legacy. It felt like the decision was solely made with business in mind and legacy ignored. Because like I said, this is not only just an icon for people in the area, but also just around the world. Like, you know, when we travel to all these different places and we meet people, and even people who aren't coaster enthusiasts, and they're like, oh, have you done Kingda Ka? Like, you're from America, have you done Kingda Ka? Like, people know about this thing. Yeah. And if any of the rides, out of all of the rides that are being taken out at all the different parks in this chain, if any single one of them deserved a proper send-off, this is the one that did.
Absolutely. Well, it's like marketing gold, right? You could sell like t-shirts, like I was the last to ride Kingda Ka. You know, you do this big whole send-off party and you just phrase it in a way where it's like, we are unfortunately like having to retire this attraction. You could say it's the end of its service life, even if it's not. You know, there's phrasing that they could have done, but my own personal speculation of why they didn't have that carry over into the 2025 season is I think that they were probably boxed in where they might not have been able to run it past 2024. You know, some insurance policies kick in at the start of the new year, and it's possible that the Cedar Fair insurance could now be the one that is covering all of these Six Flags parks. So maybe the Six Flags insurance covered Kingda Ka, but now Cedar Fair, where they said, well, you had this incident with Dragster, we don't want anything to do with this very similar ride. Again, we don't know for sure, but to me, that would make sense why they have to close it so suddenly. It's just a shame that they weren't able to still do it while saying, hey, if you want to come get your final rides in, you should head to Great Adventure. We're closing it this weekend, you know?
Yeah, and I agree. But there's one thing that we can say for sure is that this was not a park level decision.
Yeah.
The park did not, they fought tooth and nail to try to get this thing to stay.
Yes.
This was absolutely a corporate level decision.
So please don't take it out on the Great Adventure employees or anything.
Yeah.
Like, this was not their fault. I know closing night, we weren't there, but we heard a lot about it. We saw a lot of friends who went out to get their final rides. We know that a lot of management was there to watch a send-off. They did an employee rides night that weekend. There was one final train that was sent off for a lot of like the team members, you know, people who did maintenance on it. It's just sad that all that was going on while the park's PR team remained silent.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add insult to injury, the ride was supposed to be getting refurbishment done to it that would essentially restore it to its former glory. That was the path that it was headed down. But once the merger kicked in and suddenly the decisions were in the hands of people who might not understand or have sentimental connection to like the legacy of this ride are calling the shots.
Yeah.
So it sort of changed. It completely got rid of those plans.
Well, that's why you'll see that a couple of the trains were shiny and new, brand new, refurbished, and others not because they had started that process and they were going to continue it all the way through, and then it got, you know, brought to a halt. And now the unfortunate reality is parts for those trains that, you know, were just redone are now probably going to be sent elsewhere. We've heard it's possible that some might be going to Stealth over at Thorpe Park.
That makes sense.
I wouldn't be surprised if some go to Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm. I know that some parts from Top Thrill Dragster were sent over there, so it would make sense that, you know, they try and do that to extend those rides' lives.
This sort of is like this big shift in like what parks seem to value as far as like when they invest in their roller coasters. Like I always, you know, up until this year would have guessed that Kingda Ka would be one of those rides that received large amounts of investment forever and ever and ever. Like obviously not forever, but a lot longer than 19 years. Sure. I never would have guessed this. We were in denial just as much as everybody else when we first started hearing about this.
Yeah.
The tallest or the fastest kind of things were like shifting towards like, we just want it to run reliably. We want it to be cost effective. People don't, I guess companies maybe don't have as much money to spare on maintenance and things like that, like where it's like this enormous extra cost. And they're like, you know what, even if it's not like this insane record breaker, it will run consistently, and that's sort of where we're going to. I mean, look how many dive coasters are being put in now.
Yeah, well, and they can still market them, like, it would just be like, it's the world's tallest and fastest dive coaster. Exactly. And then all the news articles are like, the world's fastest coaster is coming to the, and it's like, no, like, read the fine print.
Yeah, so. But exactly, you can find things that are more reliable and less daring and, just over the top, I guess, and still have like a record breaker in some form. So I think that we're going to start seeing a shift in that direction.
And I sometimes try and put myself in the perspective of like, if I was in management, like what would I do in this clearly complicated situation? Because the reality is that a lot of tough decisions probably have to be made. Some that make a lot of people sad. I highly doubt that everyone up top like was fully in favor of this, they probably a lot of people like really like this ride and want to see it stick around. So I suspect that what happened is that you just have a lot of people now from the combined company that are very vocal about what's going on. They're still at the point where the merger just recently happened. They probably haven't clearly defined a lot of roles, or they're working to do that. And so that's probably also why you haven't gotten like an announcement up until now, is everyone has their own idea of like how to handle this. And so that's why I think this closure unfortunately probably just came at like the wrong time. If this same situation was happening like several years after the merger had been finalized, I think things would have been different. And I like to think that if they continue to close problematic and expensive rides, that they will have learned from all the backlash and everything from the situation, that say, okay, we need to actually like make formal announcements. Clearly the public does not like it when they have to rely on like enthusiast talk and like, rumors and speculations of I heard this and I heard that. It'd just be better if just the park was transparent from the beginning.
I think, going forward, it is going to look like that. And, talking about like enthusiast talk, I want to be tremendously clear. We are not reveling in being correct about this. We're very, very, very sad. The idea that we are like, we were right, or that El Toro Ryan or anyone else who reported on this feels that way.
I wish this was staying open. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and I want people to know that typically in all other, I can't think of another time where we've talked about something that was a rumor in definitives like this, where we were like, this is...
Because this was different. It was like they're about to close this global icon without an official announcement, and every part of my morals just says that is so wrong. Yeah. And I just fundamentally disagreed with that decision. And it just made me so grateful that like the coaster enthusiast community, so many people came together, give this ride the send-off that it deserved, because the park wouldn't do it themselves. Like, again, everything from like closing night, it seemed like it was an enthusiast event. We went the weekend before and there were just tons of people who flew in from all over, and that was really touching to see.
Yeah.
That people were able to go out and get their final rides in, and I'm glad that happened, because like, I made this point on Twitter earlier, like when Volcano closed, I was devastated. There was no heads up. There was no warning. There wasn't even speculation about it. I know that the circumstances were a little different, but like you never know with these sort of things. And so
yeah, and I don't blame people for being skeptical, because we were. It took like several confirmations from several different people for us to be like, oh my God, wait, this is real.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we get it.
Yeah.
Obviously, some of the discourse was not the kindest, but for all the people that did get to go out and get a final ride, like for us, that was worth it.
Absolutely. So we should change the subject to the future, because as sad as we are about what is going on, I am very intrigued about what Great Adventure has up their sleeve, and I like to think that they will put in something that is in some way a worthy successor to Kingda Ka. It was clearly a one-trick pony, so maybe with a multi-launch coaster, they'll put in something that is very eye-catching, but also delivers on maybe a full package ride experience.
I think that mock extreme spinner is a possibility, like a really, really big one.
Yeah, it was like one that was released in the surveys. It was originally for like some Cedar Fair parks, and we saw it, we were like, I don't know about this, but they might be looking at a massive one to replace Kingda Ka, which would line up with what they said, that it would be a multi-record breaking launch coaster. So something with spinning vehicles at absurd heights could be cool. I just hope that capacity and throughput is kept in mind, and that it is something that people will want to flock to from all over, because that's what Kingda Ka was.
Yeah, and I mean, to maintain that, like, kind of draw to the park, like, they kind of have to go with something like that.
Yes, yeah, I think, but it's also important to not do something that is so close to Kingda Ka that everyone will draw comparisons, because that naturally people are gonna be like, well, it's no Kingda Ka. But
I mean, that literally happened with Top Thrill too.
Absolutely, yeah. So you need some. I think that if they go with something that is like, a little bit more off the wall, like just completely different, and a spinning, vehicle would be one of those things. So.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. Again, we don't know.
Absolutely. To help offset Kingda Ka, Six Flags didn't just say we're building a multi-launch coaster to replace it. They actually announced what is coming to many parks in the now combined Six Flags chain. And that was completely unexpected. I don't know that we've ever seen something like that before.
Yeah, they gave a rundown with like a lot of different parks mentioned, and I get it. They're like, how can we kind of soften this blow? How can we kind of be like, so here's some really, really bad news, but here's a bunch of good news. So let's go park by park and talk about what they announced.
Yeah, so we'll start with Carowinds. They'll be introducing a record-breaking water ride in 2026, which is much needed. And if you remember from the surveys that were released, they were looking at a super flume, so maybe that's what it could be. And I think that would be an excellent fit for Carowinds.
Yeah, so Canada's Wonderland is obviously getting Alpine Fury next year, but they're also getting a record-breaking water attraction. Not ride, attraction. So don't know.
Curious what that is. And
the verbiage is clearly different between the two. So.
Right. Well, and they also don't clarify if this would be in the water park or the dry park. For Carowinds, I would assume it's not in the water park because they don't have any like water rides outside the water park. But Canada's Wonderland, I don't know. That's an interesting one.
Wait and see.
Kings Island will be introducing a new family thrill attraction, which is so vague. If we point to the surveys, they did actually make mention of two possible scenarios for roller coasters going to Kings Island. There'd be family thrill. One was an indoor coaster for what we assume would go in the Crypt building. And then there was also like a low to the ground multi-launch coaster that could be like a motorbike style ride. That could be really cool, but my gut says this would not be a Vortex replacement.
Knott's announced something for their water park. Magic Mountain finally acknowledged, or whatever is going next to Full Throttle, which is going to be a first of its kind coaster in North America.
Which is, again, a little vague, but that also does confirm that is a 2026 project, which a lot of people kind of assumed already because construction like really died down at that site. Like they were full blown, like we're going to remove the theater, but then people were like, what happened? Because then they didn't really like finish it. There's still a lot of concrete that needs to be dug up, and so clearly this is going to be a big project. I am very intrigued to see what they are cooking up over there because Magic Mountain does some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. Great America is going to be getting a new kids area, which is always great.
Yep, great.
Over Texas is going to be getting a record-breaking dive coaster, which to me means maybe that 300-footer that they had in the surveys.
Ooh, maybe. Yeah, I mean, my assumption is that this is going to replace Lava Bora because that is another thing that we got confirmation of from Six Flags, that Lava Bora is done. They closed it without giving riders the opportunity to get on it one last time. As well as their Super Lupa. We don't really care about that one. So I think if they do put this dive coaster in that plot of land, it would make a lot of sense, and that would
look great.
Very eye-catching because that's right when you like park. It's one of the first things you see. Mm-hmm. I think a dive coaster is a good fit. You do have Dr. Diabolical like 4 hours away, but it's also far enough away that I think that it would have its own draw.
We're gonna have dive coasters at every freaking park at this point.
Yeah, that'd be the third one in the Six Flags chain, like the legacy Six Flags parks. And keep in mind, this is the same company that went like 10 years without building a B&M coaster. Dr.
Now they're
Diabolical.
like, all right, let's go.
And then Wrath of Rakshasa, and we're getting another one.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, Six Flags Mexico will be getting a family thrill boomerang. Not sure if that's just like the typical Vekoma family boomerang because it says thrill. Not sure. But it's kind of a downgrade from having originally been getting a tilt coaster.
Yeah.
So kind of feel bad for that park, but...
And they already have a Vekoma boomerang, so this would be the second one that goes forwards and backwards. Different layout, I'm sure. I'm very intrigued to see what they come up with, if it'll be like Flash at Great Adventure or something completely different. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be from Vekoma.
No.
Not necessarily. But the last thing they say, so like these are the parks that got a specific mention. We don't know if this is the entirety list of parks that will be receiving a 2026 ride. There could be more on the way, and obviously more details to come. But they did say that they'll be investing like $80 million or something, and a lot of that's also going to go into food and beverage. Thank goodness.
Yay. That's something to look forward to.
Those legacy Six Flags parks need that upgrade, man. Like, give me the Cedar Fair food. That'd be so good.
Yeah. Just to wrap things up, we're really, really thankful for all of the memories that we got to have on Kingda Ka. I mean, I mentioned in the vlog, like, I got to experience that ride with people from all different time periods in my life. For me, like I said, it was like that ride that helped me feel like I could conquer anything. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that have some core memory that is related to that ride. Yeah. So I'm very, very, very thankful that I even got to exist in the same time period as Kingda Ka.
Yeah, absolutely. Long live the king.
Long live the king.
You will not be forgotten.
I literally bought a double XL. It's basically a dress because it's so long. It's down to my knees.
All the merch got looted. There was like barely anything left.
But I wanted something. I did.
I
really did.
Yeah. Let us know down in the comments below what you think of everything relating to Kingda Ka's closure, as well as some of the new announcements coming to other parks in the chain, or maybe some of those other rides that we got confirmation of that will be leaving. So yeah, thank you guys for your support as always, and we'll see you next time.
And long live the king.
Long live the king.